Objection! Oh, sorry, I got myself Phoenix Wright to Christmas, and now I want to collab with Mastercode. Really bad. Notice me, senpai? Sorry again. Anyway, 2015 comes to a close, and it has been quite a year for the Brony community. After a never-ending hiatus, we finally got Season 5. And what a season it was. We finally met Pinky's family, saw the Griffin Kingdom, the Crusaders got their mark. Starlight Glimmer is either the best or the worst villain of all time. As this year comes to an end, I wanted to talk about the best and the worst episodes of Season 5. Keep in mind this is my personal opinion. Of course, my opinion is superior to yours, so it's the truth, or maybe not. Anyway, let's begin. Number 5. Let's start things off with the bad stuff. Okay, bad is somewhat of a stretch. You see, most episodes were at least mediocre. If something is a 5 out of 10, it's not really bad, now is it? So, the first that comes to mind is the one where Pinkie Pie knows. You only need to read the synopsis and you know everything there is to know about this one. Cadence is pregnant and Pinkie Pie has to keep it a secret. That's the joke. There are no twists or turns, and while the callbacks to prior episodes and Pinkie Pie's breakdown are somewhat amusing, it gets old after a few scenes. Not to mention that Caden's child might not affect the show until Season 7. If you want to hear more details, check out my review. Number 5. Brotherhood Social. Yes, the episode in which Big Mac cross-dresses. This is apparently all people can think of. I don't care if Big Mac is transgender or not, even if I threw a Rocky Horror reference in. I only see a brother who wants to spend some time with his sister and cheer her up. It has a few funny scenes, but most importantly, it's really sweet and I can relate to Big Mac. I've been there, okay, not the drag, but I know how it is to feel left out in a sibling dynamic. If you want to hear more about it, check out my review. Number 4. Lumen Bloom. Yeah, this won't make it to any other top 5 list, I sort of doubt it. The visuals are quite creative at times and the lesson is actually pretty good, especially if you consider the similarities between Apple Bloom's fears and Starlight's origin story. But it's so predictable and repetitive, and it just stops being funny after the first dream sequence. I'm glad I watched it, but I wouldn't watch it again unless I have to. Fun fact, my former OC Myth-Teller here actually reviewed it. Yes, maybe we can re-upload it. It was pretty good. Shut up, nobody wants to see it. You already ruined my Christmas. And I got the feeling that you still haven't learned your lesson. Anyway, some of the things he said are quite hilarious in hindsight. He claimed that the Crusaders would never get their mark, demanded character development for Diamond Tiara, and wished for an episode that explores the relationship between Apple Bloom and Big Mac. Number 4. Thanks for the memories. People loved it when it was first aired, I still love it now. It deals quite well with the concept of loss. Yes, the 5 stages of grief are there, but it's not the only thing that's great about this episode. It's really funny at times, but heartwarming when it needs to be. I really wanna hug Rainbow in the last shot. However, Fluttershy is actually the most impressive aspect of this episode. The fact that she bluntly tells Rainbow Dash that she has to deal with it really impressed me, and then it hit me. Fluttershy has to deal with this every year with dozens of animals. Considering how close she is to the likes of Angel Bunny, for some reason, it must be really tough for her. Yeah, this episode not only shows Rainbow's soft spot, but also how much Fluttershy has grown as a character, and I love it. Number 3. What about Discord? Never thought I would put a Discord episode on a list like this. Yeah, I like that Discord finally bonded with the rest of the main cast. Too bad that it would have been so much more interesting to see them bonding. And that's this episode major flaw. It keeps telling us this.
Kind of an inside joke from this weekend. You wouldn't really get it unless you were there.
Telling us that we are not supposed to laugh at this joke doesn't make it any funnier. However, what bugs me even more is the fact that Discord comes off as way more mean-spirited in the end than he should. But there are a few good things as well, and I recommend to check out my review to hear them. However, as it stands, this episode is really underwhelming. Number 3. The Cutie Map. The season opener was an amazing surprise. It's the first two-parter that doesn't follow the typical formula and allows other ponies than Twilight to shine. A good chunk of it is focused on Fluttershy. That's awesome. And the day is not saved by some Deus Ex Machina. It's exactly the breeze of fresh air we needed after the internal hiatus. Not to mention that Starlight is at least an interesting villain, and the mere fact that she escaped made this episode even more intriguing. Number 2. Now we get to the truly bad stuff. Princess Spike. I don't hate this episode as much as other people do, but it's pretty bad. I think it has a few good fixes in it, or more specifically, Spike himself. All he wants to do is to help, and he actually does a pretty good job for once. Okay, he gets greedy later on, and I don't like this as much, but I can roll with it. Thing is, he He doesn't get punished for his greedy actions, but for his selfless ones. No one acknowledged the fact that he did a pretty good job handling everything and jumps for him for not being a princess. The only bad decision he made was to ignore the broken pipe, and even that one was actually pretty harmless if it weren't for these dragon's knees trees. Those trees represent everything that is wrong with this episode because they only exist to be the bane of Spike's existence. Number 2. The Cutie Remark. Okay, I wasn't sure if I should put the Cutie Map here instead. I think it's better written than this two-parter. The main problem with the Cutie Remark is its pacing. They jump from one timeline to the next, but we hardly learn anything about them, and because they waste so much time with traveling between them, Starlax's origin story and redemption feel rushed as well. That being said, I really love these timelines. It's so much fun to think about them, trying to figure out what happened, and I think Starlax's origin story is not as badly handled as many claim. Check out my review. It's the longest and perhaps best video I made so far. I even re-recorded it with a new microphone. Number 1. Appaloosa's Most Wanted. Celestia. I really don't like this episode. The Crusaders act dumber than they should, put themselves in danger even though they should know better by now, and the setting of Appaloosa is completely wasted. There was no reason to set it there, we don't even see the city itself. And Rayburn does absolutely nothing of relevance. And then there is Troubleshoes. Yeah, I like him, and that's a problem. His talent is apparently slapstick, but it's not funny. I only feel sorry for the guy. And that's the main problem. 90% of this episode is slapstick, and most of it doesn't make me chuckle. This episode bores me. The only thing this episode really achieves is to justify Starlax's hatred for Cutie Marks. The only positive thing I can say about it is that I like Troubleshoes as a character because he is a nice guy, and that it actually foreshadows the true calling of the Cutie Mark Crusaders. Number 1. The main attraction. Okay, the plot isn't really that spectacular, but it's well written. The friendship between AJ and Rara is just too cute to ignore. I really like the idea of her reconnecting with an old friend. She's also introduced in a somewhat believable way. Not to mention that this is the best AJ episode so far, and it really plays up her strengths and not her weaknesses for once. The only thing I disliked about this episode was Sven Gallop, but we were supposed to hate him. Otherwise it was a really sweet episode with great music. The magic inside is perhaps the best pony song so far, and actually secured its spot at number 1. If you want to hear more, check out my review. Okay, if you watched my Crusaders of the Lost Mark review, you probably expected to see it at the number 1 spot. In fact, I left out 3 episodes I originally wanted to include: Crusaders of the Lost Mark, Slice of Life, and The Mending Fences. Those 3 episodes are so outstanding in their own way that I didn't want to compare them to the rest, and pretty much everyone will list them in their top 5 anyway, so I mix things up a little. They still deserve special mention. Slice of Life is a love letter to the fandom. It's not that great from a critical point of view, but as a fan, I love it. And Mending Fences is perhaps the most heartfelt episode in the entire series. Crusaders of the Lost Mark was just wow. The funny thing is, those 3 episodes celebrate the series in their own way. In 2015 we saw the 5th season of MLP. It was the 5th year of Pony, a common date for an anniversary, and one of these episodes just happened to be number 100. 2 reasons to celebrate, and we got 3 episodes devoted to it. While Mending Fences was neither episode 100 or the anniversary episode, it would work as such. It goes back to the very beginning, to the very first scene, and ties up a loose end no one even considered. It also shows how much Twi'lek has grown since then. You could say this episode represents the past of MLP. Slice of Life was episode 100 and it shows. The whole episode is a single celebration of the show and its fandom in its current state. You could say it represents the present. And then there is the anniversary episode, Crusaders of the Lost Mark. It brings the character arcs of Apple Bloom, Scootaloo and Sweetbell to a close. And while it does look back, it is more focused on one thing: change. Diamond Tiara gets redeemed, and the Crusaders get their mark. They reach their goal and will now walk on a different path. You could say this episode represents the change and the future of My Little Pony. Friendship is magic. And with these words, this video shall come to an end. I wish you all a happy new year.